sounds, but the memories drown out the good thoughts bringing me down. Hop in the whip, I need to pick me up, yup. Shorty from last night just hit me up. She like, get me up out of here. I'm like, cool, what you wanna do? I'll just do you. And I'm like, word, I'll just do me too. And it's so awesome to be me, living in 3D, 3, 2, 1.
And hello everybody, that is a little bit of breathing from the Constant Deviants. This is Rapping with Leiberman, presented by EveryJoe.com. We say real news, rappers' points of view, and it's nice to have you all here with us tonight to welcome in our very, very special guest into the rap room. We're going to get to politics, we're going to get to racial profiling, and all of the other news of the day in just a moment. But as we do in each and every program, we begin with the rap. And to begin with the rap tonight, I want to welcome in M.I. from the Constant Deviants. He's based in my hometown of Baltimore, Maryland. Hey, M.I., are you an Oriole fan?
I'm actually a Yankees fan.
But, my gosh!
But you gotta love the Orioles too, though. But I'm actually like, I always grew up being a Yankees fan. I liked baseball as a kid, and I just was always a Yankees fan. But I'm not like a Yankees fan that hates the Orioles, though. I like the Orioles.
All right. Well, we're gonna get off of baseball then.
I am a Ravens fan. Though.
Okay, all right. You are now forgiven since you're a Ravens fan. Let me ask you this: how did you guys come up with the name Constant Deviants, and what does MI stand for?
All right. Well, Constant Deviants was kind of like, back in the 90s, it was like a group. You had to come up with a group name, so we kind of wanted to come up with something that kind of described what we felt. And we felt like we were always changing, like we were always trying to change from the norm. So we just kind of like went and looked in the thesauruses and fit two words that kind of felt good together. Constant Deviance, it flowed good off of the tongue, and it described what we wanted it to describe. MI started out as MIC, which was Mike's Illest Controller, and then it got shortened into Mike's Illest. But after time, like a friend of mine started calling me Mr. Impossible, and I kind of like the way that sounded. So it's kind of two meanings to it now. So it's like, sometimes I'm MI Mike's Illest, and sometimes I'm MI Mr. Impossible.
All right. Well, I like Mr. Impossible, so we'll go with that. I want to ask you about your writing process, because I read that you prefer to write to the actual beat you're recording a track to. Isn't that more difficult?
I mean, when you're making a song, like that's the difference. Like when you're Mike's Illest or something like that, when you're just a rapper, there's a million rappers that can just write a verse and put words together and all of that. But when you're making a song, like you need to know the beat, you need to know the melody of the beat, because your voice is like another instrument on that song. So to make a good song, your flow has to go correctly with the drop of the drums, the way the drum pattern is, the way the sample of the music is flowing. If you just write, sometimes you can write a verse and it'll sound good over a beat, and it doesn't have to be written to it. But to me, like to create a song, that's the difference between a rapper that just knows how to rap and a rapper that knows how to create a record.
Somebody told me you put out 4 albums last year. Is that correct?
4 albums this year we recorded. Yeah, we put 2 up. Well, this is the Avant-Garde album that comes out on May 12th. That's the second one this year. It'll be this year. We recorded 4 albums last year. Yeah.
How do you get 4 albums recorded in 1 year with material that you're proud of?
I don't stop recording, man. Like I just like, as far as making music goes, like music kind of saved my life coming up. So it's like it gave me something to do. It gave me something to like, vent, take my frustrations out on. So it's like I'm always working on music. And as far as the production, it's like, I have different producers we work with. We have guys in Switzerland that we work with named SWC Records. I did an album with them. Then me and Cut did an album, Constant Deviants. I did an album that I produced myself. And then another album that multi-producers produced. Did production for as well. So that's as far as writing goes, like I don't run out of things to write about because there's always something on my mind. So
when you say that the music and rapping saved your life, what do you mean exactly?
I mean, growing up in a city like Baltimore, you're going to grow up facing a lot of turmoil, a lot of things going on in the city that, I grew up in a household, my mother and father had their addictions and such, things like that. So growing up, I needed an outlet. And writing was my outlet. Like, it was my way of expressing myself and getting things out of my mind that I would have bottled up any other way. And also it kept me off of the streets because, you know, everybody else I was running with was out in the streets more. But me being able to go to the studio as I reached my teenage, like I was getting in a lot of trouble at a younger age. And then in my teenage years, being in the studio more, being around people, people believing in me, believing I had an opportunity to do something. So it took me away from that lifestyle more.
Do you think that it ultimately saved your life? Look, we both know, I'm from there. I covered crime there in Baltimore for years and years. It's a rough place if you're out on the streets at night. Do you think this literally did save your life, that you may be dead right now if you weren't in writing?
Dead or in jail. You know, I mean, I was getting arrested. I was arrested 3 times by the time I was 16 years old. So it's like I was going down that path. So I don't know if I'd have been dead per se, but maybe, you know, being in jail in essence, so metaphorically, I'm saying saved my life. But something would have not panned out for me. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to, unless I just had like a, you know, a horseshoe up my ass or something like that. But that's not the case, you know, so. It took me away from that. And, you know, the people that I know that stayed going in that direction, that's where they are. They're either dead or in jail now.
All right, we're going to get back to some more of your work in a little while, but now we get to the segment of the show that we call the one-on-one wrap. And for the one-on-one wrap, we talk news. So, I know that you're a well-read guy, so we're going to go through some news topics, get your thoughts. I want to start with politics. Okay. This is the cover of New York Magazine, and since you're a Yankees fan, I chose this. The cover says, quote, "Shoe in, flame out, a sober analysis of Hillary Clinton's real chances of becoming our next president." So let me ask you, what are Hillary's real chances of becoming our next president, do you think?
I don't see it happening. I don't think there's really any chance of Hillary Clinton becoming the president next. I think she's, you know, she's like the Obama administration and all of that kind of brought a younger energy and a newer, like it brought the youth into it more and made the younger people kind of focus more. I think she's from that old school, and I think a lot of people from that old school already are sick of her anyway, and she's not going to be able to go out there and get the young people. Like, she's not going to be able to get the young people like Obama got the young people.
Well, you mentioned old school. You look at the Republican side, and Jeb Bush, amongst all this fanfare, is supposed to be kind of the front runner for the Republican nomination, but the New York Times wrote a piece today that basically said that, I'll quote it, "Jeb Bush's early campaigning looks like the juggernaut that wasn't." Do you agree that Governor Bush has gotten off to a slow start, and do you think he can win the nomination?
It's hard to say. I mean, he's a Bush. I mean, you know, see, I go back to the fact that I really don't think it has much to do with the voters and all of that. Like, I come from a school where, you know, like, I mean, being a hip-hop artist and all of that, we did a lot of reading on conspiracies and stuff like that. Like, I'm not a firm believer on how much we as a people have a say-so in the matter anyway. So I think any Bush has a chance because they're so powerful and so influential anyway, you know, so.
So let me ask you this. What could sort of give you your faith in the system back again? I'm assuming that you mean you think that the elections are driven by big money, by lobbyists, by people in suits and ties that don't listen to people like yourself. So what could be done?
I think at this point it's kind of like, you know, I mean, you don't want to try to say like start a revolution, but at the end of the day, like there's really nothing that can be done because I believe people are just, you know, we use the term sheeple. Like people are sheep now. People just follow what's being said. They use all of the distractions and everything that they put on the news and all of this stuff to distract you from really what's going on. And people are so far gone that I don't really think there's enough that any of us, like, it could be a million of me, but that's still not enough to change the trillion other people that think the other way and believe that actually believe that stuff.
I want to talk about the Iran nuclear deal a little bit. Israel is lobbying hard against it. What are your thoughts on this deal with Iran? Should we have made this deal? I mean, it's not formalized yet. It's getting a lot of pushback in Congress. Israel, of course, doesn't want it. What do you think?
I mean, you know, at the end of the day, like, it's all about big money. So they're going to do what they want to do. They got something going on in the Middle East right now that they're trying to, you know, I mean, it's all Iraq, Yemen, Saudi Arabia. Syria. They're all over there right now. So they're gonna do what they're gonna do anyway. I believe that, Iran or ISIS or whoever you want to say is, doing whatever they're doing over there. They're only allowed to do what the powers that allow them to do. Like they're only allowed to do what they're going to do. So all of that stuff is set up for a distraction as far as I'm concerned. So, at the end of the day, like, what they're trying to make people believe, they want to believe like, oh, we can't trust Iran with nuclear weapons and this and that. But they want to help Iran, so they can, it's saying basically like, oh, we can stop this if we can, inspect them and all of that. But at the end of the day, like, the powers, it's not the United States that's the powers. The powers are the powers of the world. So they control what goes on in the world and what's allowed. I believe all of those leaders of all of those countries, at the end of the day, when they get in the rooms by themselves, they all work together.
Well, let me ask you this, because we're talking about the world, we're talking about the Middle East, and we always hear about Iraq, Iran, countries of that sort. But then you have a terrorist attack in Kenya on a university where 170 some odd students are killed. Are you surprised there isn't more outrage here about that attack? I mean, do we just not care about Africa? Is that the bottom line?
I mean, at the end of the day, like, like I said, I mean, the Middle East is a land that's been fought over since biblical times. There's never been peace there. There's always, for some reason, the human being wants power in the Middle East. So that's where their focus is. Ever since I can remember, we've been involved in what's going on in the Middle East. They don't really have much interest in Africa. So at the end of the day, no. Like, I mean, it's the same thing when the girls were getting kidnapped and all of that. Like, they didn't pay that much attention. They mentioned it for a few weeks here and there, but then that just kind of phased out. They don't want to get in over there. Like, at the end of the day, every time they go over there and do what they do, they start forming their infrastructure over there. The corporations start building over there and all of that. They start building up that land. And they're taking that land the same way they took the United States from the natives. It's just it's like chess. They're playing chess, and that's what's going on.
All right, let's bring it back home. Two more quick stories here at home. I don't know if you saw this, but Rolling Stone retracted this big rape on campus story, and a review found that they didn't even, do routine journalistic practices to verify these claims of this woman who said she was gang raped by several men at a fraternity party. What's wrong with journalism today, M.I.?
I mean, it's the same thing from like a couple weeks ago or whatever. What's that guy's name? Brian something or other? Like when they found out that he was lying about
Brian Williams. Yeah,
Brian Williams. I think it's like anything else. It's like music. It's the same thing. It's like pop culture is taking over. Like, people want to lie to gain interest for themselves. It's what people do. I don't know if it's just more people getting caught now doing it and it's always been part of journalism, or if there was actually ever when, there was actually all authentic journalists. I'm sure there's always been journalists that lied, but maybe now, because you have the internet and you have so much access to so much stuff, that people can't lie as easily now.
All right, the Boston bomber trial, you think he'll get convicted?
Yeah, he'll get convicted. Definitely.
All right, let's now go to our final segment of the show. We call it Wrap It Up, and we're going to start with this, M.I., and then we're going to get to a little bit more of your work, because I want to hear you give us a little freestyle or something. Give us something here at the end of the show. But I want to read you this from EveryJoe.com. This is about Indiana's religious freedom law, and they actually wrote a piece that said Indiana's religious freedom law doesn't go far enough. I'm just going to read you this quote. We live in a world where many simply cannot distinguish between the reprehensible and the impermissible. That's unfortunate because, as we see with the question over Indiana's RFRA, it creates social conflict rather than alleviating it. True tolerance requires respecting the rights of others to act on motivations that we don't necessarily share and may even find repulsive. My question for you, M.I., do you believe that law in Indiana was discriminatory, or was it misunderstood?
I believe it was somewhat misunderstood, but it could be looked at as discriminatory. But you got to look at it from a deeper aspect. Like, let's say, for instance, does it work this way? Like, if a gay guy owns, or a gay woman or whatever owns a bar or whatever, or a club or whatever, or a venue, and let's say, for instance, an organization of gay bashers wanted to throw a party in there, would they not have the right to tell them they couldn't have that party in there? Like, you can't, like, it has to go both ways. So it can be looked at as discriminatory, but nobody's questioning whether or not gay people still have to follow the same rules that straight people have to follow in that sense.
Yeah, that's
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a really interesting viewpoint. That's why we have you here. All right, so you have a new album coming out next month in May. Tell us about the new album and give us a little taste of it.
All right, yeah, Avant-Garde. That's Constant Deviants. That's our 4th LP. It'll be released on May 12th. This album was, we've been making music since the quote-unquote golden era of hip-hop. So we've always had that, like, boom bap feel, that, like, 90s hip-hop feel. And we wanted to kind of, like, step out of that element a little bit, but still keep it. But we wanted to sound a little more current. So we came up with the Avant-Garde because it was a little more experimental for our sound. And we spent a lot of time in France and Switzerland this year. So that's where the French influence came from with the title. And I think it's a dope piece of work. It's like one of my favorite albums to date from us.
Give us a little something from it.
Right. Something like a sad song. Another rainy day, but the grass growing. Knew where they was going, man. I threw the fucking pass to them. They'd have seen the ball if they never had the mask on. Last song and his cash gone. Left his ass so broke he should have left with a cast on. In this vehicular homicide, and mama tried hard to take his side, but I'm sorry my Obama lied. And why reply to a stand? He ain't a fan, he Tasaka Janky, talking shit with his hands. Man, I plan to expand my brand, but I would never take advantage of a fan. That's just a little something,
Oh, I like it. Yeah. Has President Obama lived up to, because you mentioned him in those lyrics, has he lived up to what you hoped he would do for this country?
My first feeling was that he would give, like, even if he didn't physically do anything, that he would give hope to a generation of hopeless people. And I feel like that didn't happen. I feel like people are more discouraged now than anything. Like, people feel like they have less, like, at first everybody was real uplifted, and it kind of showed like a little bit of unity in the country. It kind of showed that we were going in a certain direction. But, sometimes what really goes down can smother all of that. So I'm not going to say it's his fault, because like I said, I don't feel like the president, no matter who the president may be, has that much power to say what really goes down anyway. But I thought maybe he would encourage a generation of people more. And I don't feel that, like, I feel a lot of people that did come out and did vote and all of that, like, they're not even interested anymore.
No, I think you raised some excellent points during our conversation. I could talk to you all night, M.I. Unfortunately, we got to cut it here. But listen, first of all, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Your insights are valuable. That's why we do this show. Second of all, best of luck on the new album.
Thank you.
And you'll come back and visit us in a couple months and let us know how everything's going.
Of course. Anytime, man. Just let me know. I'm right here.
All right. My man from Baltimore, even though he likes the Yankees, but you like the Ravens, so that's all right.
Hey, I like Buck, though. Buck is the original Yankee.
Yeah, that's why you like him. All right, M.I. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
All right, John.
All right. That is M.I. from the Constant Deviants. What a terrific guy there. He had a lot of good opinions from the veteran hip-hop group, Constant Deviants. You could go to their website. We showed it to you. And I want to thank you all for watching. Please subscribe to the EveryJoe YouTube channel. You can do that right now, right here on YouTube, and tweet us. I'm at Reporter John. We're going to play you out with a little bit of Constant Deviants music. And for now, this has been Rapping with Leiberman, and good night.
CDs, and I refuse to let him get away with the fakeness. Homie know he's softer than baked fish, and I don't play with that type of thing, so I don't say shit. That's why